Hello, Team Wilpers Run Challenge fam. This is our 2025 Holiday Run Challenge. My name is Justin Harris. I'm one of the coaches at Team Wilpers, and welcome to Week 5's Athlete Briefing. It's the holidays. So first and foremost, whatever you celebrate, we wish you a happy holidays. I wish you a happy holidays. I hope you all have safe travels, enjoy time with family and friends, and get a little downtime for yourself, which doesn't always happen, but uh, yeah, it just doesn't happen. But the key thing here is that in week number 5, we'll get into it. You know, you can move days around. I'll talk about that to deal with the Christmas if you celebrate and whatnot. But the whole plan is really geared towards, making it through the holidays and being consistent so that when we start the new year, we're not starting from scratch. One of the things that I wanted to get into that we finally officially announced, we've been trying it on the cycling side, but now we're bringing it on the running side, and we're super excited for it. But it's Club Wilpers. So these challenges have been free, and there's an option to join All Access, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then we have one-on-one coaching, which is premier service, one-on-one, curated for you to help you get your performance gains while being healthy, and to help, cognitively offload that for you, educate you, help you perform, do the thinking and work for you. Right. And so many, many more things happen in one-on-one coaching, but there's a pretty big gap there. Right. So now this is something in the middle for those of you to get a little bit more of a taste of what we do on one-on-one coaching, and a little bit more than what the challenge is. So we're going to be gearing up for 10 weeks, and we're going to do group coaching for the New York City half marathon. Now, if you're not doing a New York City half marathon, there's a bunch of half marathons around there. I'll help guide you on how to extend or to perform before the 10 weeks is up, whenever your race is. So it's not just benefiting those who are running the New York City half, although it is geared towards that, the training and the race plan. However, these are, tried and true principles that we use at Team Wilpers for all our distances in any half that we're really approaching. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a video call similar to this, but all of us together on a Zoom call for those participating. And we're going to introduce, a concept, get everyone engaged, and educate you, and then interact with you and answer some more specific questions, where this is more, we're trying to hit the bell curve, the center, the 95%. This is a little bit more focused on you. So it's a really neat product. You can go to Team Wilpers and see it. If you're on our emailing list, will have seen it, and I'll put a link to where you can sign up for that, or answer or get questions or ask questions. Okay. And so that's starting up January 5th. The first call is January 4th on Sundays. So we're trying some new things here to help fill in the gaps for what you all are asking for and looking for. So we're super excited for that. And really what it is, it's an aspect of, making sure there's something for everyone. And in these challenges, there's the free option, which you don't have to pay anything for. Well, duh, that's free. However, we're writing to a certain, ability level and whatever in our, moderate or default mode. And if you need a little bit more, or you need a little bit less, in order to toggle those, you need to be an all access member, which is $9.95 a month, which is absurdly cheap, not just to toggle the difficulty level, but also to get access to our strength plans written by Coach Ava Fagan, who is coaching Matt in his strength. So you're getting specific training for you inside the plan, which is awesome. And then also for the $9.95, you get access to training plans, right? So marathon, 5K, half marathon, 10K, beginner, intermediate, advanced, different levels there for you to access if you want, to have a specific timeline and whatnot. So for all $9.99 or $9.95, something like that, you get access to that. So you have the challenges will continue in a little slightly different format. We'll be talking more about that in the future, hearing from Team Wilpers yourself, but just putting that out there for you all to see. Now, As we get into week number 5, I just want to kind of, if you're jumping on or seeing this for the first time, make sure you follow us on Team Wilpers on Facebook and Instagram. And then on Facebook, we have a main Team Wilpers page, and then we have a cycling page and a running page. The running page is where the challenge community is going to be really engaged. People are asking, questions. People are highlighting wins. People are sharing some of their challenges that they're going through. And as a community, 12,000 members, that's where you get to interact. And some of us coaches are on there trying to answer your questions. So make sure you follow us. And if you want to follow me, Jay Harris Coaching on both platforms, actually all platforms. Okay. So in week number 5, all right, now this is different holidays have been happening and whatnot. So how are you navigating, the schedule? And the schedule, we're not setting it specifically to you. In the one-on-one coaching, we're really dialing things to you. Hey, you want Christmas Day off? Hey, you're meeting up for Hanukkah or different things, right? And we're having these conversations with you in one-on-one coaching on how to navigate it and making sure we're getting the essentials in there. For the challenge, you're going to have to kind of move stuff around. And so what I ask for in the challenges is that you do not put 2 quality days back to back. So if you're doing 3 days a week, those all are the 3 quality sessions. All right. So that's a VO2 max session, a threshold session, and a long run. Those are quality sessions. That's about it that you can do for quality running. Okay. So we don't want to stack these up like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and get them all out of the way. It's a really dense 3 days if you do that. Okay. So if you're moving stuff around, try to create some space. Now, sometimes when you create space, you move it something Saturday to Sunday, and then Monday, is the VO2 max session. And so sometimes, you might have to skip a quality session just to keep the rhythm going. And that's something that, we play around with one-on-one coaching. And in the group coaching, we're going to be discussing with how you navigate that a little bit more specific to you if you have questions with that. Okay. So week 5 is about intentional intensity. I'm a sucker for alliterations. But the quality sessions here are ladder down, steady state, and half marathon race pace. All right. And so if you are on the standard, like you haven't adjusted anything mode, the default mode and the easy mode, all the sessions are 30 minutes during the week and a little bit longer on the weekend. If you're in the difficult mode, it's 45 minutes a session during the week and a little bit longer on the weekend. Okay. So we were really trying to keep things nice, short, and sweet so that it wasn't a big ask to get your training in and to focus on you and have a little time for yourself, giving yourself a gift of health and fitness. So we have the ladder downs, which we're going to do longer intervals up front, get the big ones out of the way. And then as we go down, you have an opportunity to run a little bit faster because it's a shorter interval length, right? And then we have steady state run, which is more like marathon pace, all right? And it's programmed as such. And that's more continuous, all right? And you're not supposed to feel like you're racing a marathon because that doesn't really kick in till at least after halfway, if not further. And so at the end of the day, with steady state is you're just trying to click off and just feel rather smooth, but it doesn't feel easy, all right? That's why I call it steady state. Another name for it is tempo, okay? And then on the weekend, we've done this before in this challenge where we're having half marathon race pace just to break up the run. A lot of people are on treadmills, and if we're just going run, hour 20 minutes or hour 60 minutes, it ends up being a little challenging, all right? Sometimes mentally and even physically. So to have, even though the portions are more intense, to break it up into chunks, most of my clients at Team Wilpers say it goes by a little bit better. So, all right. And then the in-betweens, the aerobic run with striders, the aerobic run, those are the same old, same old. So yes, there's zone 2, but this is not zone 2 training. Okay. I just want to point that out for people because we keep getting confused on that there's some information coming out like zone 2 training is killing you or whatever it is. Easy runs are hurting you. And it's like, breathe, Justin. if you're only doing that, running easy, eventually it's not going to be a stimulus anymore, and therefore it's not good for you. However, at Team Wilpers, we're taking you through a plethora of ranges, a plethora of velocities. And the zone 2 sessions, the aerobic sessions, are the bread and butter of any endurance program. And so if anyone's telling you that those are not good for you, yeah, I don't know that I'd listen to them. All right. Now, there's some perimenopause and menopausal stuff for women to lift more and do different things. Yeah, all these good things. And that's part of the puzzle that we really work on in one-on-one coaching, and that we're trying to address all the way down through all our products. But the key thing here is VO2 max. Okay. So what is it? Why is it important? And then how do we execute it? Okay. And I'm just going to keep it super simple. I've talked to these points at length in previous ones, or have mentioned them or talked to them. But essentially, VO2 max, you got to think of it as your engine. Okay. How big is your engine? How much horsepower is in the engine? So if you have a higher horsepower, then something, a pace at the lower level, less than that, slower than that, is not going to feel as challenging. So if your VO2 max is 10-minute pace, all right, so you're running minute on, minute off at 10-minute pace. If we ask you to run longer, like 30 minutes, you can't run VO2 max pace, because VO2 max is the maximal. So get into defining it. So if we define VO2 max, it's velocity at oxygen, O2 maximal uptake, meaning how much oxygen can you suck down, utilize, and process. All right. And so when we're right, we're not really, we're breathing in, but we're not really utilizing it. Okay. And so the interval, so in a race at 7 to 10 minutes, that's where you're going to achieve peak maximal oxygen uptake. All right. I take a little spin on that, because so then that means we should be doing 7-minute repeats to work on it. And that's not how it goes. It tends to take around 3 minutes to really get on deep into utilizing oxygen. All right. However, a lot of the stuff we have in this challenge, and I have in my own training, is much shorter intervals. Okay. And so to me, all right, that VO2 max, the important part of all that is the V, the velocity. All right. So when we're doing minute on, minute offs, all right, the opportunity there is really to hit high velocities. And it's more like VO2 max prep. It's not anaerobic, all right, zone 6 stuff. All right. But it is the prep work to get there and to handle more. All right. Because we want to increase horsepower, all right, in the car. Now, since it's engine size, all right, and we're trying to increase horsepower, the whole point of the workout is to do a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. All right. So when we talked about threshold repeats, that we're trying to like keep, we don't want to be so high that we are, really strong and working really hard and have racing intervals. That's when we get into VO2 max, where we're doing more best effort. But with VO2 max, really what we're doing is we're trying to, as you imagine, is like, so I have this cup, all right? And so for this cup here, all right? So VO2 max basically is like we're trying to fill up the cup for the interval, all right? We're filling it all the way up, all right? It's intense, all right? It happens really quickly, and it's visceral. But then we need enough recovery to basically empty the cup, all right? And so we really want our heart rate to drop down, and we need that time. So if you're jogging or running in between intervals, or shortening the intervals, then there's no way you're emptying your cup. So then if your cup starts this full, then it's, you only have this much opportunity to do the work. All right. And some people are like, well, I'll get there sooner. And what ends up happening, or getting there sooner, means you're getting there, but you're getting there at slower velocities. And therefore you're not necessarily, you're still increasing horsepower, but not to your best ability. Okay. All right. So make sure you're taking recoveries down. But since maximal oxygen uptake takes a little while, right? This is why we do intervals, right? So we might not get it minute on, minute off in the first several, but then we'll get it later because we've spent quite a bit of time there. All right. The last thing I want to say here on VO2 max is that the key metric is like, is this a key metric, right? So a lot of the watches say your VO2 max is increasing, or they're giving your VO2 max based on, I believe it's pulse ox or something like that, and whatever. And it's kind of like it's not a direct measure. And so when things are estimated values, each step that has to happen via calculation to get there, there's a lot of room for error. So again, watches are more about trends than they are accuracy. And your race results or your 20-minute test or something like that is going to be much more accurate to where your VO2 max is. This is why we test retest in the challenges. This is why in one-on-one coaching we were taking race results and other metrics. Some of us have test workouts and different stuff like that to really see where we're at and what paces are there. Okay. But is it the key metric? Is VO2 max the key metric? And I'm going to say, I want us to think about this. Okay. So VO2 max is the quote I found. All right. VO2 max is how big your aerobic engine is. It sets the ceiling for how much work you could do. Training decides, though, how efficiently you use this engine. Okay. And so in training, we have kind of two modalities that, well, there's multiple modalities, but in endurance training, there's how efficient you are, okay, over here. All right. And if it's a hybrid car, that's more like the electric engine, super efficient, good gas mileage, whatever. Right. So that is your aerobic running. That's your zone 2, basically up to essentially zone 4. All right. So threshold, tempo, steady state, aerobic, zone 2 running, easy running, and recovery running. This is all kind of efficiency. So this is like fat adaptation, lactate buffering, all those things. And one can say that like zone 3 and 4 getting a little messy on that. But let's just say zone 3 and down is working on efficiency. So like think of those when you're doing those days, that's like you're trying to increase the gas mileage. And then on the other days, so zone a little bit 4, but 4 is on the cusp. So we don't work in hard like switches over with certain things, but 4, definitely 5, 6, and 7. So anaerobic work and neuromuscular work, that is trying to increase horsepower. All right. And so it's hard to always work on both, although in one-on-one coaching, we're doing this, in challenges, we're doing this, and in our group coaching, we're doing it. But you got to understand what session is trying to do something. So on your engine and efficiency side, the electrical engine, when we're doing our zone 2 runs with a high heart rate, we're missing out on an opportunity there to work on efficiency, because if we get to a certain heart rate, we're shifting over to this system. All right. If you ever driven an old hybrid car, at like parking lot speed, it was the hybrid motors, electric motor. And then if you stepped on the gas, it would shift over and boom. And it's the same thing that happens here. Okay. So is it the key metric? Well, VO2 max is not the key metric. It is an important metric. It's part of the puzzle to figuring out. And if anyone tells you it's a sole metric, there's podcasters and stuff, they're saying, VO2 max is super important for longevity and health, like Peter Attia and Andy Huberman. Absolutely. It's part of the puzzle, right? However, it's not all VO2 max. So Frank Shorter, one of the Olympic marathoners in the 70s, I believe. Yeah. Very successful marathoner. His VO2 max was like 70 or 72. And like the highest recorded is something like 93 or 95 right now. Cross-country skiers like have really high ones because they have to, it takes a lot of skiing on the legs and arms. But his peers were more like 75 to 80 something, right? And so, but he was super efficient. So his kind of electric motor was way more efficient, and his economy and his mechanics and all that stuff, and he didn't have as big of an engine. Then there's some people who have massive engines, like 90 VO2 max, but they're really inefficient. So think of Prius versus Ferrari. Okay. And the Prius is super efficient, but it's not super fast, but you can get a lot out of it, right? The Ferrari has huge horsepower, but not efficient. All right. And so this is what we play on. All right. So VO2 max, when you're doing VO2 max sessions, focus on the velocity. We want a fast car. We want to be going fast. So we want big recovery in between. We want full recovery in between, so we can step on the gas pedal and giddy up and give a really good effort. Then on our aerobic days and our threshold steady state days and our long runs, that's when we're working on efficiency. All right. And in the sport of endurance, both pieces are really accurate. All right. I will tell you a little side story super quick, is this idea of Where is it? I'm just trying to get everything in the right spot. So there's these two Norwegian triathletes and their coach, and they do a lot of testing and different stuff. So Christian Blumfeld and Gustav Eden. And essentially what they've kind of figured out is like Christian Blumfeld won Tokyo Olympics, which is kind of a shorter triathlon. It's like an hour and 40 minutes. Doesn't sound that too short to me. And then Gustav Eden, whatever, they were doing the same thing. And then they would transition to Ironman, which is like a 7-8 hour event, right? So, fourfold difference. And so what they were doing was for the short stuff, they really focus on horsepower. So VO2 max and other things that would raise their VO2 max, and they'd be testing this. But that requires a lot of calories, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. And then for Ironman, that is all about efficiency, like a marathon. So think 5K, 10K versus marathon. All right. And so at the end of the day, they found out that like for Ironman, the longer stuff, they had to tune down the horsepower so that they could be more efficient metabolically. And they were doing really well in both events, which you don't see too often in the same year. All right. People can spread things out. But it just highlights this point of like we can tune things down or up. And these are things that we do across the board in Team Wilpers. So anyway, I will get to the chats here. So week 5, happy holidays. They've been going on all this month. So enjoy, spread things out. Don't put 2 quality days back to back. And understand that when we do VO2 max, it's about horsepower. When we do most other things, it's about fuel mileage efficiency. All right. Good gas mileage. All right. And so this is one of the things they say, right? Like if you set a destination, in your GPS, if anyone else is like me and you try to race it and see how much you can beat it by, you watch your fuel efficiency just drop down over 60 miles an hour, and then you don't save that much time. So anyway, okay, cool. So, all right. So we got some questions here. All right. So Claudia asked, does strength training help with endurance or the speed or both? Both. All right. The simple answer is strength and speed, right? Because, well, it depends. If we're talking about strength where we're doing the primary movers and everything, we're just getting stronger, which means we can handle more force, ground reaction force. We can put more force into the ground and we can receive and handle more force because our muscles are stronger. All right. This is why we also need auxiliary stuff, the kind of stabilizers and little things that we incorporate in there. But Newton's, I think, a third law. I think second law is F equals ma, but third law is for every action, there's equal and opposite reaction. So the faster you're running, the more you're going to strike the ground hard. And if you have good mechanics, if you have good, follow through and everything, we're striking the ground from this far and we can really put a lot of pressure in. We have bad mechanics and we're kind of sliding our foot through, then we can only punch this far and therefore we can't get as much ground reaction force. But in running, this is why the super shoes are so helpful, is they're dealing with dispersing that energy like super efficient and whatnot. And I don't know all the technicalities of the shoes and everything. I've dug into it, but so this is where strength helps with speed because it allows you to handle more ground, put more force into the ground, and then also handle it. All right. Because if I just start punching the ground, I'm not ready for that. Right. Okay. It also helps on the endurance side because it does allow us a higher capacity. Like we can handle more pressure when running faster, which allows us to be more comfortable at VO2 max speeds. And then it also helps endurance. And this is like, we've known this for a long time. The research is slow to prove it, but it helps you be more efficient, like from a fueling strategy standpoint, right? Like your muscle fibers, you have type 1, type 2, A, and B. So you have slow twitch. Then you have type 2, I forget if it's B or A, but one of them is like the quintessential fast twitch. And then the other type 2 or type X, they call it for a little bit, can kind of play both games. All right. And so one of the things that in classical training, like Arthur Lydiard, he would have his athletes run 100 miles a week for middle distance events. And we're talking in the 50s and 60s when periodized training really wasn't around. So he was paramount on that, and other people as well. And it was like a small, New Zealand town, and they had like something like 5-6 Olympians out of like 3 training, Olympic quad cycles. So like a very high percentage of the athletes given the area, right? And so they would do like hill bounding and strength work, and they would also do slight downhill running. It was like nice smooth grass and turnover. And so basically the concept was like, it ended up being proven later, but because they were training so long, they were tiring out their type 1 slow twitch muscle fibers over every Sunday. They did this like really hilly mountainous loop, like 23 miles in Auckland. And some of them work construction and like different stuff. But basically your type 1s get tired out. So then you start challenging the type 2s, both of them. And so then you become more efficient. So anyway, to answer your question, a little bit long-winded, but it does help both in different mechanisms. And yeah, so this is why it's good to do. However, when you're doing it, matters. And this is what we talk about our one-on-one coaching. And we'll be talking about the group coaching, Club Wilpers. All right. I'll hang out for another second or two for questions. But yeah, strength training helps with both more speed directly, and then indirectly it's helping with endurance. So, all right, Claudia. Yeah, thanks for explaining. New to run. How new are you to running? Like, when did you start? Do you have an event on your calendar yet? We love new runners, right? Because in new runners, we can teach you the smart way to train and help you with avoiding a lot of the mistakes that we've made ourselves growing up and that we've seen when coaching our athletes. So the challenges are really, there's a lot of wisdom there that all our coaches impart at different times when whoever's running it. Whether you listen to it or not is a different story. So, all right. Okay. So she says, Claudia says 5 years ago, and you have Berlin. Yeah. You got plenty of time. Build up slowly. Be patient. You rather be a mile short than an inch over. So think minimal effective dose. And if you're not working with one of our coaches, we have a lot of coaches who are very experienced with getting their athletes there and different stuff. And we have a club coaching, which we haven't released what we're doing in the fall. But anyway, everyone, enjoy your happy holidays. Enjoy your happy holidays. We wish you a happy holiday and enjoy your holiday. There we go. And we'll talk to you next week, the last athlete briefing until the new year. All right. We'll see you all then. Adios.